put up to the YouTube channel. We have to do YouTube channel, my own, the Diego Torres, and the other one is Formación Política ME in YouTube, and all the sessions that are gonna be over there if somebody wants to check it again. Okay, so officially, welcome everybody to this working table about the review of the USMCA. We call it here in Mexico, la revisión del Tratado de Libre, del T-MEC, del Tratado Comercial entre México, Estados Unidos y Canadá. The purpose of this meeting is just the first one of many that we're going to have is just to put on a paper which topics we think we should be talking about in this working table. The USMCA is a big document, it's consisting 34 chapters. That they are very long and difficult to understand. I can see that the few chapters they are involved to the problem with the immigration, the poverty, the violence that's here in Mexico. The chapter 3 is the agricultural. The chapter 7 is the administration and the commerce. The chapter 10 is as well as the commerce between these countries. Chapter 14 is inversion. Chapter 23 is labor, which I think is very important. We have a table specifically talking about the labor rights, but this is going to focus on what is in the USMCA. And chapter 24 is medio ambiente, I forgot how to say it in English, sorry. Chapter 25 is small and micro
environmental
business
issues.
environment. Yes, thank you. And chapter 33 is political matters and the exchange. This right now is a big thing that with the tariff that Trump wants to impose to Mexico. And thanks to this chapter, the 33, we are protected. And I think this is not going to happen, the 5% that he was trying to push into the remesas that the Mexicans are sending over there. So each one of us, we're going to have 5-10 minutes to talk about which topics do you think we're going to be we should be talking about this specific topic, though, this the USMCA. Who wants to be first?
Well, I can start.
Perfect.
But Jennifer and I are both on a Mexico Solidarity Committee around labor. So we have focused on the labor section. So that's really more what we know about as opposed to some of those other chapters. You know, right now, the rapid response mechanism has been quite successful. Surprisingly, the United States has been very good at pursuing complaints that come from Mexican workers and working with the STPS to try to resolve them. However, the rapid response mechanism doesn't include anything specific about environmental violations at the different places, so that if workers have a complaint about that or about health and safety, those things are not included. We learned from the campaign at VU Manufacturing that instead of abiding by the rules in terms of the right of workers to organize, the company simply closed down. But that company is part of a larger enterprise. And so unfortunately, when they closed, the USMCA did not cover that. It just said, okay, they're gone, so there's nothing more we can do. But they were part of a larger enterprise that has a lot of money so that over 70 workers were left without their final payments. And the labor accords did not help with that. So we need company-wide, not just the individual enterprise responsibility for violations of the workers' right to organize. The other thing is that workers get blacklisted, and there needs to be something that really speaks to blacklisting. And then we thought that there should be workers' rights across all three countries. So right now, the rapid response mechanism is only for Mexican workers, not for US or Canadian workers. So that should be uniform. And especially in Mexico itself, it's kind of it's kind of a shame that workers have to complain to the US rather than being able to complain directly to their own country. And I have to say that, the Mexican side has not been as strong as the US side. So what can I say there? And then finally, protection from violence. We're working on the case of Jaime Pulido at Camino Rojo mines, and he's been threatened with death. And he's not the only one. Workers have been intimidated, and there is nothing that protects them from the violence. So those were just some specific things that we thought about so far based on our experience trying to support Mexican workers. And as we know, if the workers are not more equal in all three countries, we're going to have companies coming in and pushing wages down again. We need to keep lifting up so that everybody is equal. So the NAFTA and USMCA were both vehicles that benefited the companies, but made the workers less well off and gave them less bargaining power.
Okay. Yes, I don't know if I have problems with my internet. I get freeze for a little bit, but we are back. Yes, and I think it is one of the things that I was talking about with you about that is that all the time we are talking about the protection to the Mexican people in the United States, but this is bigger than that. Immigration is just even we are touching people, U.S. citizens that they are coming here in Mexico, and all the time we talk about gentrification and all the problems they bring here, but the truth is that they are immigrant as well, and they need to be protected. So if we want to be in an equal situation between Mexico, USA, and Canada, we need to see about the protection on the U.S. citizens that they are working here and they should be protected as well. Obviously, it's not that the thing is the problems that the U.S. citizens they are facing in Mexico about this violence against them, they are violating their labor rights is something that most of the Mexicans they are suffering here in Mexico, and we need to change in that. I think it is a good opportunity to talk about that and try to fix it. Okay. About this, how this work, I remember in the meeting that we have in Guanajuato, we were talking about one of the somebody of the MSP talk about this situation, how the media and the government even they are saying that the Mexicans they are going over there to do the job that the United U.S. citizen they don't want to do it, and she was explaining magnificently how this work. I think we can make a specific table. She explained everything, so the Mexicans we need to know as well how this big corporation affect not only Mexicans but they affect even U.S. citizens, and this is used by Donald Trump to promote this hate speech that he's doing for so many years. So, okay, anybody else wants to add any more topics about what should be included in this table?
So sorry for I couldn't hear all the Meisu participation, but I was listening the first part when she said that the labor has been successful. Could you provide more information about the success? What are you were talking about? Because what we have been seeing in Canada, at least, is that the labor is one of the things that has never helping at all to labor issues here in Canada.
Well, just to, the rapid response mechanism is one where workers can call directly to the United States Department of Labor, and perhaps the Canadian one as well, and to explain how their rights under the USMCA are being violated. Then the US DOL, the Department of Labor, investigates, and if they find that the claims are credible, they take those to the Mexican Department of Labor to figure out remediation. That worked very well in the first big victory for independent unions, which was at GM in Silao. Because there was a union election that was very corrupt, the CTM union stacked, stole the ballots, and that was documented. And so they forced it was through the USMCA and the rapid response mechanism that they had a second election, and the independent union, Cynthia, won that election. So that was huge. And there have been, I think, about 20 different RRMs that have been filed by the United States, and they have been many times successful. There's been a few big failures. In terms of Canada, only 2 rapid response mechanism suits have been filed. I don't know what the first one was, but the second one is now around Camino Rojo because it's a Canadian mine. Orla Mining owns Camino Rojo in Mexico. It has not been resolved yet.
Okay.
Okay, what are you saying, since I understand properly, is that it has been successful in Mexico. This has
Yes.
been a success in Mexico. But how about in United States? Because the treaty or the agreement apply for Canada and for Mexico, not just United States against Mexico or Canada against Mexico. So because talking about the success, even have a one victory is important, but it doesn't represent that it has been a success. Maybe it was a victory among these treaties. And I will be more careful, but that is not discussion. That's forget what I say. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand the process. So my question is, how about to apply those same rules to the Canada and United States? Because here in Canada, to unionize it, even to become unionized as a migrant worker is prohibited.
Yes, no, that is definitely what we say is that this rapid response mechanism needs to apply in all 3 countries. Why only Mexico? You're absolutely right. It should be symmetrical. All 3 countries should have the same rights.
And I
Okay.
think, I don't know, you want to help me to when they wrote down this, they were trying to protect, I don't know if protect or push Mexico to do the right stuff with the unions here in Mexico, because we know about the sindicatos charros. But this is a tool that can be used for Mexicans living in the United States and Canada, that they belong to, they are part of the unions, and they can use this mechanism so they can request to be protected as well. I think that's is a way that I think we should explore if that's a way to do it. Maybe it's not thinking about the American citizen, that he is not thinking about to ask for help to Mexico, but I think the immigrants, they can use this exactly to do that and request that protection from this, in this case, for Mexico. He's going to have the tools to do it. If anybody wants to try this, before we keep going, if you miss something, the EI companion in Zoom, just try it. That's the little flashing on top of your screen, and you check there. It's gonna ask, give you a few options. Just keep me to the date. If somebody say my name, is anything that is going on, or which topics they've been talking about, and it's gonna give you a list on what we are talking about. We can start using this EA tool, so if we miss something, at least we know now what they've been talking about. On my computer, they are translated everything into Spanish, which is good. This way, I don't need to do translation when we have bilingual. Everybody is going to be able to go and check it on Spanish. I don't know if you want to try on your computer, if you have this option, and this way you have it in English. So we can keep with the conversation. Go ahead, Raul.
So that's fine. Then I would like to suggest one of the points for the future conversation is how to make that the agreements apply for the 3 countries, like the labor agreements, right? Because until now it has been just applying for Mexico, but then the focus for discuss is how to make possible that the agreement work in the same way for the 3 countries. And in this case, it should be the right for be unionized in Canada, because it is prohibited to be unionized. Migrant worker is prohibited to unionize in several provinces.
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead.
Raul, I think that's really a great point, but right now the RRM doesn't even cover agricultural workers, farm workers in Mexico. There's a union there called Sinha in Baja California. They didn't have a right to file an RRM, so a second reform that's needed is to include the agricultural sector workers in the agreement.
Well,
Period.
we have a chapter about agriculture. Why we don't have the right to become unionized, right? That is,
Exactly.
well, because the people who were making the trade agreement wasn't the workers, were usually the
Exactly.
companies and the governments, all those kind of things. And that is another issue that I would like to talk about the treaty. Usually the treaties and the agreements about labor and all those kind of things has been made between employers, mean companies and governments, but the worker has been excluded all the time. So the government argue that they can bring the worker on the table because there is no common representation for the worker. We say, okay, we don't have common representation. Great, bring all of them into the table. You don't need to bring just one people, but you need to bring the worker voice under the table. But it is also false because we are the only one organization for workers in Canada, the migrant workers. So we should be called. Now we started to be called in some cases, but it should be more general that all the workers should participate in the creation of the agreement, so any agreement. We have to figure out a way how to participate. We could be in the room or the next door room, or in some way. But the worker voice has to be there.
Does anyone else have something to
Yeah,
say before I jump in again?
I
Armando
think we
Yeah.
Armando.
and
Hola,
Jennifer.
hi. How are you today?
Hi, Armando. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Paisano, Diego. Well, that I wanna find out that even in this situation, the rapid response mechanism of the TLC, they are not being included. Our brothers in the United States or brothers in Canada, they are workers, and it's very tricky. He was intentional, but I think so that is good that we have this communication because it's important to share information and experience of that victory in General Motors in Silao, that they can give us. They should invite them to relate our experience and learning from there because we need to be united. The workers need to united in Mexico, in Canada, and the United States. That it was a all. It's necessary that we find uh, point by point and we can work in the details how we can improve the conditions of the farm workers in to me is only through the union for now, no, and we need to start forming new unions that accept the workers, international workers, or that they don't put the requirement to have the some kind of papers because they still are workers. Yes, in the farm or no, in any industry, worker is a worker and should be treated equally, you know. But I think so. There is a good essay that we need to keep it up these forums and communication but also también invite the unions like the Sinja and San Quintin and this victory of the workers in Silao, no? But we need to be united. That is what I conclude, and I have a lot of hope that in the road that we initiate, we're gonna go and find out how to overcome and find solutions for the workers in the three countries. Thank you.
Go ahead, Misu.
I think Jennifer, did you have your hand up?
Okay, go. Sorry.
That's okay. And I'm not being negative here, but and there's certainly things I'm not, necessarily aware of. I mean, I already had, I want to say suspicions, but that's, I know that Trump and the people that he's got is working on the US part of this. And it, a lot of it has been confirmed, especially yesterday. There was the trade justice. They don't call it a press briefing, but they were speaking about the USMCA in the US. And because there aren't even the people in the US that would normally be in charge of doing the work on,
Well,
yeah,
negotiation.
there you go, the negotiations for this. So in my mind, it's very much, and in my mind as well, because Trump was on the last version or the first version of this. I have to assume that all the good things that were put in this were done by Mexico, possibly Canada. I'm not as familiar with Canada's side of this. And so I see the best vehicle to make anything happen or to press for anything that we want is on the Mexican side and possibly on the Canadian side. So,
Yes.
I mean, I know we're talking about all these different things that we want to really bring up, and absolutely agree with them 100%. And in this discussion of we need to unite in all three countries, that's 100% the case, and where we'll have our power. So I would think that, as you're saying, Armando,
Yes.
we have to get the workers together too to make
Exactly.
the pressure.
So I just wanted to say to Raul and also Jennifer, the labor accords in the last USMCA were pushed by the AFL-CIO. It didn't come from the government and it didn't come from the corporations. It did come from the labor movement. I think in Canada, I don't know, but right now the steelworkers have been talking about the USMCA, and the person that we know is Paul Bocking. So I could probably put you in touch with him and you can talk about how Canadian labor can get involved in a unified way. But I think your suggestion that workers be at the table is really good. And I think, as Jennifer said, Trump is not going to allow that. But if Mark Carney and Claudia Sheinbaum can say, yes, let's have the public listen in. Let's have workers listen, at least listen in the next room, as you said, so that we know who is saying what. That would really be good. I like that idea.
Well, I just wanted to make a quotation as some clarification. Well, when you say the agenda was made by the labor movement, I don't know which labor movement are you talking about, because for sure the migrant labor movement wasn't involved there.
Exactly. No, you're right.
We weren't involved there. So it was a specific labor movement which is the privilege in Canada, because the majority of the labor movement doesn't support the migrant issues, the majority of them. So si those kind, the labor movement was who put the agenda into the trade agreement, for sure we were excluded. So that thing is what we should recover. We can continue having those kind of things because the labor movement in Canada, I don't know if in United States represented, but in Canada, the labor movement doesn't represent the migrant workers. Most of
right.
them are against the migrant workers, right? Because they say that we are stolen the job because it is our fault that the salaries has not been increased or they are being losing rights. They say a bunch of things. All of those are lies. All of those are lies because they have been losing rights because they stopped fighting. That is the real reason. Because they stop fighting. Because now they are not on the street, they are not on the strike. Because everything, all the fighting that the union does in Canada is through the lawyers. The lawyers substitute the labor force. So they lose benefit. Yes, they lose because they are not fighting. Because now they are not even representing the workers. So if they don't even represent their own worker, far away they represent the migrant movement. So that's the point. Just to clarify that part.
Okay. I didn't have it. I just did the
I wanted
translation.
to speak. I wanted to see if I can speak about it.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, when we're talking about an agreement, basically we're talking about negotiation that take place between two or three parties in this respect. And sometimes it used to be very clear that the CTM was not representative, and that the labor law in Mexico was not being democratic. I mean, it was easy to show. Now it's not easy to show because now we have a reform, even though it's not revolutionary. It doesn't put the workers on the table, and it doesn't give the power to organize themselves. It doesn't have any teeth because now the environment in Mexico is that all the labor movement should be together. That's a line. When I came in at the first treaty, it was the independent unions in Mexico, the ones that was putting this into effect. And they were able to, in another times, convince a labor secretary in the United States to accept this, to put it on the table, and to talk about something like in United States where you have elections, okay, in an environment that is democratic. In Mexico, there is not such a thing. There is no election and there's no environment. The CTM is still a very forceful. You know, they use violence to get their contracts and to enforce them. So when the AFL-CIO put some money for solidarity in Mexico, and the Teamsters put some money for solidarity in Mexico, I think that there was an intelligent and a very quick way of showing the 26 companies that were the worst of the worst, okay? But was able to get maybe 20 resolved, okay? So that's very good. But like for example, Raul is saying it's true. Not even in United States we have the right, the workers, the farm workers that have the right to organize, to get a union, to get a contract. Not even in United States. So if we have something strong in Mexico, if we can have a president and negotiate it in Mexico, they will look for putting these things on the table. I think we can represent people from Mexico in a union from Mexico, of migrants, international migrants from Mexico, to whatever place they go and travel. Because the important thing of a union is that the workers have conscience, and the workers have the powers to organize and to put a negotiation on the table. I think it's going to be very difficult because we have the Teamsters in Ocean, and Teamsters, even though they're union, they're very discriminatory against drivers, Mexican drivers, for example. And even though we have a secretary that is Mexican American in the United States, she's a Republican. Okay, and it's not easy to see. But those are the things that we can use to intelligently convinced and being on the table. I think one of the things that I was part of it, the last negotiation, was the visas TN in the Bracero program. Okay, I do two things that they have to be included there because the argument in the Bracero program was there was 1%, 10% was kept for the workers to be returned when they returned to Mexico. They was never done. An argument like that could be put on the table for workers in United States that are international workers to have a saving that they can get to be able to better themselves, their lives. So I think that those are the TN, for example, visas, which is for professional visas. I think we can do it mostly direct to give work visas to people that have technical ability, not just professional, but technical ability, because that's what I think is most needed in the United States right now. To have most of the trade unions in the United States have illegal contract with people that have undocumented workers working with them, with subcontracts, all of them. You know, you cannot find a white welder right now. You cannot find a white a carpenter right now. You cannot find, they all the new ones are under subcontracts, and that's an opportunity we have if we put people with a visa organized. Because right now, most people see the H-2A workers, the H-2B workers, they see it as anti-labor. And it shouldn't be. It should be something that we can control in Mexico. But in the table, it's important to put those 3 points on the line, especially when there is a lot of discrimination. When you mobilize people, it's about 90% of the mobilization of people are young males, Mexicans, not females, and we're discriminating against women when we mobilize people with visas also.
Thank you, Humberto. Yes, look, I get ready my proposals I had for, I say, I think there's 8 chapters. I didn't have it used in Spanish. I just translate right now this one. And this one is specific for this chapter, the 23 labor. And we're talking about the rapid response mechanism that we needs to be put in the work to protect the U.S. and Canadian citizens working outside of their country, especially in Mexico. But the same, we need to add the immigrants on this one. It's something that is not there. Bilateral cooperation, the idea is to, the cooperation could extend to protection on migrant workers because they are not, they are not right now in the USMCA. The enforcement of labor laws that we've been talking about that in the labor rights work group, but I think it needs to be specified that on the USMCA. So whether or not they are nationals, it is crucial to ensure the effectiveness and enforcement of these laws. With I think in the United States, you can do it even if you don't have papers, you have rights. The thing here is the education. A lot of people, they don't know, so that's why they never ask for their rights be respected. So we need to open a channel for political education is part of that, and we're going to be working on that one as well. And the last point is the information and legal assistance. The supporting and promoting the unnationalized Mexican migrant workers abroad can be an important means of collectively defending their rights and improving their working condition, which I think on this specific topic, I think the Tatiana Cloutier has a big opportunity to start doing something in the Institute of Mexicans Abroad. I think we can work on that. Okay, go ahead, Humberto. Did you ask for? Okay.
No,
No, okay, that's okay. So that's this is a document just for this chapter. That's 12 pages long. I'm gonna do the translation. I'm gonna send that to everyone as well. And the idea is just to collect all these proposals to everybody to make sure they are in Spanish and English, and then you send that to everybody. So all of us we know what we are talking, what we are proposing, and in the next round, each one of us we're gonna have the whole meeting to talk about those specific topics that each one of us we bring to the table. So you have a proposal already there in English or in Spanish, and you want to send that to me so I can make the translation and then just share with everybody. It's okay. You can send it to the email, the Formación Política ME at gmail.com, and I'm gonna do that translation. So in the next phase of the working groups, everybody is gonna know what we are talking about. That we're gonna have 15 minutes to start that work group, and then we're gonna have 1 hour just talk about those specific topics, and then the speaker is gonna have another 15 minutes just to do the close statement about the proposal that they bring on the table. And in the third phase of these working groups, we're gonna try to make somebody that is in charge, even maybe on the Senate, maybe somebody from the government, so to talk about these specific topics. So this is the process that we're going to be talking on this process. All these meetings, they are put it on the YouTube channel, Formación Política ME, so you can check every single one in there. You're gonna have the resume of this meeting. I'm gonna send it by email, by the WhatsApp channel that I open for that. And I say, you can check right now on the AI Companion. You can click there. Let me know if you have access to that tool. It should be able to everybody. And you can ask exactly there what's going on this specific meeting, and you're gonna have the everything on your own language. So I don't know if anybody wants to add something to this table, or
I have
any
question
other.
for you,
Yes, go.
Diego. This document that you show us before, when talk about the right that the migrant worker can submit a complaint, if he can do that from his workplace. It is in the agreement, in the trade agreement, or that is the proposal?
There's a proposal. It's
Okay.
I read the T-MEC, and then there's the proposal that I think we need to be added to that one. So
Okay, so you just have to consider two things when you do this kind of proposal. The one thing is, that's fine, you can add those in the suggestion for the new trade agreement, but you have to consider especially the ways. Who will do that? Who can do that? Because let's say that this proposal has been accepted. So the Mexican consulate can do that because they are limitation for the minister or for diplomatic authorities. They cannot intervene because participating to do those kind of complaints will represent intervention into the internal policies. So the Mexican consulate can't do that. It has to be done by organizations who are here in Canada. At least that's happened in Canada. There is a clear prohibition. So the only way that that is the funny thing. The only way that it can be possible, the Mexican government intervention, is for business matters. So if the Mexican have to defend some company from Mexican company, then there is the only way that they have chance to participate or to go to the courts in Canada. That is crazy because you can't defend your own citizen here. That's why the Mexican consulate, usually they wash his hand and say, no, I can't do nothing. And they do nothing, just scratching their belly. So that's what they do. But then this suggestion, even that sounds good, it wasn't applied. It won't be applied, at least in Canada. So because now the rules or the tools that we have here is the employment standard branch or the labor standard. But mostly the migrant workers, especially undocumented people who close work permit, the only chance that they have is to use the employment standard branch or worker compensation or human rights tribunal. That's the only way that we have. So we have to figure out how to deal with those kind of things, especially for the mechanism, especially with the mechanism. Maybe the creation, that could be more possible, the creation a three-party or a binational commission who could deal with those kind of abuses for the migrant worker, maybe that could work because they could guarantee that we could have a body that could act and to do something. That we have been insisting a lot of time, the creation of the civil commission, that's how we call, the creation of the civil commission who have the capacity to do recommendation because you can do anything else. Or maybe we can do according with the agreement, all the migrant workers have to have the right to go to this binational commission who will decide about those kind of things. I don't guess so the government will accept that, but we can try. But it's most related with the mechanism. I don't know if I was clear, if I explained me clearly.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Before these work groups that we are participating right now, pretty much everything was like complaining from the Mexican community abroad, just complaints and complaints, no ideas. I think we are listening for many years the complaint. Now we are doing proposals. I think this is what needs to be done. This is the second phase, the first phase phase of this working group. The second one is when I'm gonna present the whole document to all of you, and right now you already save me time because say, okay, how are you gonna implement that? Ah, thank you. I never think about it. I wanna write down. But now we know what we need to be done. Now, in the third phase, we're gonna ask somebody from the government that's their job to say, this is the situation, this is the complaints, this is the proposal, how are we going to manage this? And they need to give you the ways to do it. We can go and ask, I need you tell me how we're going to fix something because so far they have no idea what needs to be done. They think everything is okay. So we are saying, no, it's not okay. We have a lot of problems. We think this is what we need. And now you're going to help us to build this mechanism so everything's going to be good. Okay. That's what you already told me right now. That's the next phase of these working groups. When I present the whole plan, and it's just this a plan from my organization, plus the plan from your organization, from the MISO organization, from Jennifer. So we're going to put all together. Each one of us, we're going to have time to present that, and we're going to have the feedback to see, okay, this is okay, or we need to change this, how we're going to make it. And then we're going to go to the next one. We're going to ask people from the government to sit and listen to us and say, how are we going to do this? We have these ideas. We can create this. We can do that. We need this modification. It's right now. I know the consulates, today, they don't want to do it. Let's change that. We want to change that in order for them to be able to do it. If not, we're going to create something. But we can create something before we know what exactly we need. Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, Mason.
Well, just the basic problem with the free trade is that capital and money and companies can move wherever they want, but workers cannot. So it's completely unfair to start with. But what I'm hearing here, and it may be a place for us to concentrate because we don't want to be so big and have so many proposals that it's unworkable, is that really the farm workers, the migrant farm workers, are the biggest population of workers without rights in in the US and Canada. So I feel like maybe we should concentrate on that. And again, I think, Raul, if you don't know Paul, it would be good to get in touch with him. He's, he's a complete radical and would definitely listen to you and to figure out how to incorporate the farm worker into the talks that have been going on around reform of the USMCA.
Perfect. Okay, Humberto.
Humberto, I think, has his.
Yes.
Okay, movilidad laboral, which is a term that is, I want to give you some numbers so that we can specifically hit on it and make a proposal on this, how in the treaty can be of very good help, I think. If we're talking about 30 million documented, community in the United States, 11 or more every day without documents. Okay, if we don't see how it's done, the majority of that mobilization of people is through coyotes. Okay, those are competition, a real competition. The second real competition is the visas of tourists, okay, from United States to Mexico or Canada, which is a mobilization of right now working in United States, 6 million and a half with visa tourists working in United States. And we only have 450,000 visas, H2A, H2B, and TN right now. That means that through the legal procedure, only 450,000 people can work legally in the United States. And there is 6 million and a half, 7 million altogether. They are in somehow on a gray area and more without papers. My idea is that we should push for the American Council, when they give visa, work visa, legal work visa for mobilizing people, that Mexican Department of Labor understand where they're coming from. And see, they're like, I used to work in the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. Every garment that we used to do had a label, a number. The same thing here. But they give us an opportunity for anybody to utilize that mobilization to make sure that the workers get their rights, their contracts, and the ability to form a union before they leave, not after, not when they're over there, because they don't have the same tool that they might have when they're in Mexico. So the same thing that the response mechanism has been used to make sure that everything goes okay. I think it should be the same logic for the people when they give in work visa, mobilization, legal visa between countries. That's my contribution here.
Thank you, Humberto. Anybody else wants to add something?
No, just that the just that the H2A visa program is terrible. There shouldn't really be temporary and with all the restrictions on that that they have.
Yeah.
But that's a problem within the United States. It's not in the USMCA. We each face, as Raul said, we each face different laws within each different country and different problems and obstacles. So those need to be settled elsewhere, but we need to concentrate on just what's the trinational.
Yeah. And that's what I remember I told you when I would say why we have a labor right table and
Yeah.
why because it's different stuff, but we are trying to address every single one. And this specific table, we have 1 year to work on it because it's until next year when is the revision on the USMCA. So we have a lot of time to talk about each one of the topic. And we need to ask, I know we need to ask for everything because we know we don't want to get everything. So
But
we
in
need to
this
ask
case-
big so we can have at least something. Yes, Raul.
But in this case, Meisu, I guess she have a right about the mention or to be focused in the trade agreement about the work visa, because there in the case of Canada, there is a specific visa for the trade agreement for the CUSMA. There is a visa for CUSMA, who it means that is very terrible. It's very bad. All those visas are very bad. That's why one of the possible actions that we are asking, many people say that we should request the permanent residence or citizenship. We say, yes, it can be a demand, it can be a goal, it can be the utopia, but it is not what could work. But what could work is the open work permit. So we should work, or we should put into agenda for the CUSMA, for the work permit that the workers should have, is an open work permit. Because
Yeah.
having an open work permit will give will guarantee the mobility, the people mobility, and will guarantee certain freedom of the abuses. Because if you don't be treated fairly with an employer, you can move and change the employer and the province or whatever. But now it is not possible, not even through the CUSMA, not even through the trade agreement. So I guess we should put the specific work permit for this trade agreement, because they demand a lot of things, a professional skill, English, certain education level, several skills that they demanded, but they don't give any benefits. in those kind of things. So I guess it should be included here in the CUSMA, the
I like
kind
that.
of specific work permit.
That's
In this
good
case,
idea.
open work permit.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's the idea. But for example, the numbers again will give us that the coyote has more ability to mobilize people, and that the people that give visas or tourists have more ability to mobilize people than the H-2A visa that most people say that they're no good. Okay, and the idea is not to be divided, but to have something unified at the same level, like you're saying. That should be something really, really important because they give us the possibility of mobilizing freely like anybody else.
Well, it looked like the government have a specific office they call mobility program. Supposedly, they should be in charge of the hiring for all those kind of population. But the reality is that they are not doing that, but they give all the chance to the private companies, they are the coyotes basically, to do that. But it should be among the agreement that only those official agencies for hiring people should do that. Otherwise, even I have been very critical with the program that exists right now, like the Visa 1 and 2 for United States and the seasonal agriculture worker visa for Canada. But I should recognize that at least there is a one layer of protection that the workers have. Even if the government doesn't do anything, at least they have supposedly the protection for the government, at least something. But when all the hiring has to be under the coyotes' hands, there is none. There is zero. The government not
I
even
agree.
know where the workers are. That's the
That's
biggest
true.
problem.
That's true.
Why they don't even know where the workers are.
I wonder
Okay,
if
yeah.
Carlos Calles, if he has anything to say. I haven't heard from him.
Carlos, ¿algo que quieras mencionar?
Yes, yes, of course. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I work at Usmca, an organization that addresses the international agenda on various issues related to Mexico. So, one more time, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Uh, I'm I am attentively listening to what you are saying, and I completely agree with you, especially regarding the fact that the workers have not been taken into account on these tripartite agreements. And we must protect the workers and ensure their safety, which is the most important thing. Well, for example, here in Mexico, have been many examples of the lack of protection for the workers. For example, Paso de Conchos tragedy, where several minors were trapped and unfortunately they lost their lives. Their families only recently began receiving the support, and we must not forget the case of the migrant workers whose labor and human rights are often violated. In my point of view, all of this happened because workers are not considered in the decisions making process in these agreements. And only to conclude that we believe that the international treaties must be more equitativos, equitable for all the parties, and they must take into account all of the sectors so that we can build better and fair agreements. That's all. Thank you very much. Oh. Sorry for the camera.
Gracias, Carlos. Thank you, Carlos.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so if I think that's I think we cover a lot just on this chapter. I think we're gonna keep doing that. Next reunion for this topic is going to be let me check today. It's on Monday, 10 o'clock in the morning, Mexico City time. Is too early for you, Meisu, I guess. It's like 6 o'clock over there. Today we have another work table that's electoral reform. I think it's going to be very important. That one is a huge topic for the immigrants outside of Mexico, especially in United States, because there's millions of people and Mexicans over there. But okay, so I think with tomorrow, Saturday, we have another at 6 o'clock as well. Immigration reform that we're going to be talking not just about the reform in the United States. I think we need to talk about immigration reform in Canada. We need to talk about immigration reform here in Mexico, because this is a huge problem that affects the three countries. Well, I thank you so much for everyone to being here. I hope to see you in the next tables, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
And can I get, Raul,
Yeah.
can I get your email address so I can connect you?